Hey people, Indrid here, 1v1 on the Silver Spire. Here are my glorious Nurgle forces led by an Exalted Great Unclean One of Nurgle. Big old fella, over 12,000 hit points. Decent chunk of armor too. Massive weapon strength with a bunch of armor piercing, but poison on his melee attack, and actually decent melee stats across the board there. 60-50 is not bad at all, and actually decent speed for a Nurgle unit. Big fan of this guy. It's very expensive though. He's got Blight Swarm, a Plague that nukes melee defense and spreads. Got Fleshy Abundance spell, the only spell I took on him, which is often the case for me. You can overcast this to be Area of Effect as well, but it costs 28 wins when you overcast it. Might be worth it though. Cloud of Flies, of course, for more melee defense when he's in melee. We have Fetid Stench, lowering leadership of those around him. Children of Nurgle, the Nurgle lore passive, triggering a 5-second heal over time, map wide when you cast a spell, and Pestilent Decay, constant damage over time around him if he's in melee, which is amazing. Big area, as you can see, 35 meters isn't bad, and as far as I'm aware, this damage per second doesn't roll against anything, and it doesn't get resisted, it just happens, which is great. Got the standard demon physical resistance stuff. Rest of the army, we've got some, if I can get over there, Plague Bearers. These are your lesser demons of Nurgle. Good stand and fight troops, well priced at 750 as well I think, but they are achingly slow at 23 speed, decent melee stats, and they've got the Cloud of Flies. This time I brought some Warp Spawn. First time I brought them, they always look super freaking cool I think. So these guys are monstrous infantry, meaning they are large, countered by anti-large, and vulnerable to ranged fire and stuff. It's easier to hit them. Good weapon strength, actually decent melee stats for a monstrous infantry. These guys, these big infantry fellas, often have kind of middling melee stats because they hit multiple units on each attack swing. So you can think of them having kind of middling melee attack rolls, but lots of melee attack rolls. These guys are ranked up a bit too, which inflates their stats slightly. These guys are unbreakable, so they will never dematerialize. They'll just fight to the last model, which is good. They got Cloud of Flies as well. I would think these guys would have regen, but they don't. I think I remember reading that early versions of this unit had regen, so maybe it was seen as being too strong on these guys. But yeah, they're decent. We'll see how they do. Decent charge bonus on them. I've already called in some Nurglings to go and take my victory location over there. But yeah, that's the army. It's a Great Unclean One, some Warp Spawn, and a bunch of Plague Bearers. Up against... There's a Silver Spire, by the way, over there, look at that. We have Slaanesh. My first time playing against Slaanesh, my first time on this map as well. Kind of sucks that you can't practice domination mode against the AI, because you get chucked onto maps you've never seen before in your life. Anyway, you have an Exalted Keeper of Secrets, using the Shadow Lore of Magic. Big old scary fella, lady, whatever it is. Not a lot of armor, not a huge amount of hit points, but man does this thing hurt. 25 bonus versus large, magical attack so it gets through the physical resistance of demons. You've got this thing, Ballet of Blows. I'm not sure how exactly this works. Do you just activate it and it lasts for 45 seconds, getting better every 15 seconds? As if that's true, that's amazing. And a cooldown of 90. Penumbral Pendulum, this is a spell that damages stuff. It's like a big, well, you can see from the icon there, like a big axe thing that swings around. It's kind of nasty. Occam's Mind Razor, granting magical attacks and a big weapon damage bonus. It's a Strider, can go through terrain without slowing down. And Devastating Flanker, something that a lot of Slaanesh units have. Doubling their charge bonus if they attack in the rear, which is nasty. So that'll be an 80 charge bonus if it gets a rear charge. And it's got the standard demon stuff, wounds because it's big. What is the 4,000 mass and 80 speed on this thing? It's already at the central victory location. Pretty nuts. So when I saw that it was Slaanesh, I expected maybe a bunch of melee infantry, hard hitting, glass cannons, but nope. It's an entire army of cavalry. Hellstriders make up the entirety of the starting force. I think... Oh, do they have some infantry somewhere? It's mainly Hellstriders. There's some infantry. Got some marauders over here. 42 melee defense isn't bad, but not a lot of armor, not a lot of hit points. They are very cheap though, like 550 or something. You get 120 of them, so they are your stand and fight infantry for Slaanesh. Not terribly impressive, but that's what you get. They do have, I'm not looking at them. They don't have devastating flanker, do they? No. So their cavalry that they've brought here is very, very cheap. Hellstriders are like 600 or 700. They've got some with spears, these are anti-large, and some with whips, which have better stand and fight stats. And those Nurglings that I sent to my point are going to get wrecked. So let's go to normal speed. Because my stuff is so slow, my warp spawn and my Great Unclean One get here, and they just have to wait for the Plague Bearers to show up. Which kind of sucks. The points unlock in 140 minutes from now. 1 minute 40, I should say, for those that don't know. Get 3 victory locations. You cap them to get victory tickets. On the first to 5,000 wins, you get 5 tickets per second for every point you hold. And supplies here are used to call in reinforcements. My Nurglings immediately get charged. You can see using their mobility to put immediate pressure on my natural victory location. My Plague Bearers get down there to try and help out. Big initial charge pulls out to cycle those charges. They know that if they try to stay in on that fight, they're going to lose 100 Plague Bearers versus 60 Hellstriders in a stand-up fight. They're going to get worn down. So just charges out again. My Nurglings get destroyed. And this is what Slaanesh is great at, I learned in this game. Fighting in these midpoints. Between the victory locations, they can cut off your reinforcements. I've got a Beast of Nurgle up. I thought a bit of speed. This thing has 40 speed, which is not bad for Nurgle. Also, the melee attack debuff here, which is great. And good armor piercing damage, hoping it can tear through some of this cavalry here. And it does well. They do have anti-large cavalry, but I'm not too worried. Beast of Nurgle is awesome with its health regen and stuff. And look at this. Setting up huge surrounds, getting big flanking charges. Just completely outmaneuvered here. I'm sending in some more Nurglings to even it up. Nurglings do count as infantry for the capping weight stuff, I believe. My Great Unclean One goes after the Keeper of Secrets. And you know what? These Great Unclean Ones do really well in the 1v1 fights against like Bloodthirsters and Keeper of Secrets and stuff. They seem to hold their own very well. Maybe it's because I always bring Fleshy Abundance, which is amazing. And this is my first mistake. Keeper of Secrets backs off to draw the Great Unclean One, and of course my dumbass just follows it. Follows it right in, gets it isolated. And because my Plague Bearers are slow, I mean they're not moving right now, but they are so slow. And this guy gets shoved around. Look, you see he gets shoved around like that? Actually gets staggered there, and he gets shoved out. Look at that. Very strange movements on my Great Unclean One. Couldn't get him back into the victory location. There's Fleshy Abundance to keep him alive. He tanks like a beast, but I should have had my Plague Bearers closer to him earlier to help him out. I'm trying to cap the point, of course, surrounding me here with cavalry on all sides. I've hidden my warp spawn in these trees, by the way. Should have used them a bit earlier than I did, perhaps. Maybe I should have used them right now to get in here. Trying to get my Plague Bearers in. They're disrupting them with some charges. Some decent hits though. Doing some good damage to all of this stuff because of that Pestilent Decay. That Pestilent Decay is so good. We select an enemy unit, we can see it on them. If I was in melee. No, can I select? And whatever. Sometimes it doesn't want you to select units in the replays. Anyway, still getting cut off at my reinforcements. Look at this pressure here. I've got my Cultist of Nurgle on horseback. Very good in these stand-up melee fights, especially against these guys which don't have the anti-large. He's got his health regen, he's got Cloud of Flies. I've got another Beast of Nurgle again. Big fan of the mobility this guy gives you relative to other Nurgle stuff anyway. I mean, these guys have 100 speed when they aren't poisoned. The poison is slowing them down here. And I just cannot deal with that. Outside of my flying units, I can't do anything about 100 speed. They can pick and choose their fights. And maybe I should have brought... There's another Fleshy Abundance there. Maybe I should have brought some flying units. I was thinking of bringing the plague drones with death heads with those ranged attacks. I thought the ranged attacks would do some good work. But once the ammunition's gone, are they going to be good enough? Because I don't think they're going to win against 60 models of this cavalry. Maybe I can use them to get between points and do some rear charges. Great Unclean One still doing an amazing job over here. Just fantastic stuff. Here we go. With the Marauders selected, we can see Pestilent Decay there. Keeper of Secrets kicking my ass a bit. Plague Bearers there disintegrating. And they're pulling out of those fights. They don't want to stay in these fights with me. What's been called in? More Hellstriders over there. Heavily damaged. More Hellstriders here. I mean, I've got the central point. I've got 2 points. I've got a victory ticket lead here. Oh, this is the... I think this is one of Slaanesh's army abilities. Just causes you to go rampage and take damage. Which is annoying because it makes my very, very slow Plague Bearers move off their point. And take a bunch of damage. I'm not sure what else Slaanesh gets. Or Slaanesh gets in their army abilities. I do have that one which nukes speed and charge bonus, which I do use sometimes, but I can't use it all the time on this cavalry. It's just not always available. My poor Great Unclean One's still completely isolated. Look at the amazing job he's done against the Keeper of Secrets and a bunch of support. And remember, melee... Oh, he actually knocked him over. Look at that. Melee defense. You only get a full melee defense value in front of the unit. It's kind of like the shield, you know? You can only block projectiles if they're coming from in front of you. It's the same thing with melee defense, which is why big units can get destroyed if they get surrounded. And here goes my Great Unclean One. He actually ran out of health that he could regen there. You can only regenerate a certain amount of health on each unit per battle. And he just couldn't regenerate anymore. They cap it. So down he went, which is a big deal. Keeper of Secrets still has like 30% of their hit points. Slaanesh doesn't have any range units whatsoever, I believe. At least I have some with Nurgle. I have my Soul Grinder and my Exalted Plague Bearers and my drones with death heads. Not even their Soul Grinder has a ranged attack. Speaking of Soul Grinders, here's mine. Getting some really good shots in there on those Hellstriders. That is awesome. Love these guys. They can get isolated and surrounded though, which is what happens here. I just get completely outmaneuvered constantly. They're on my point again. Sending in triple Nurglings, which, I mean, I know they're Nurglings, but they actually stand up decently well. 60 of them. That shot misses, just trying to get them off my point here. And Seekers of Slaanesh. These are slightly fancier cavalry. I think these guys cost like 900 or so, and here come some Fiends of Slaanesh. Those guys are cool as hell. I think they cost like 1300 or so, Fiends of Slaanesh. 80 weapon strength, good melee attack and melee defense. And they got this thing, Soporific Musk. It's kind of like a poison that debuffs your combat stats rather than your damage and speed, which is amazing. And really bad for me, because Nurgle units tend to not have great melee attack, and that just lowers it even more. Here's a summon from my cultist to help him out here, but he does a great job tanking that guy. Some Plague Bearers coming out, but of course, just leaves the fight. My Plague Bearers have no hope of catching that. What's going on in the mid? I've got one of the other cultists and a couple of Beasts of Nurgle, and here come my Warp Spawn. Finally, I bring them out to play. I thought this was the time to give me some more capping strength here, do some damage. Beasts of Nurgle are so good. They've got Fiends in here as well. See their melee attack being debuffed to 31 because of the Slime Trail, which is awesome. And here's another Keeper of Secrets. Great. What's your deal? You've just got huge armor piercing stuff. Getting poisoned though, immediately gets poisoned. Does have devastating flanker and has some spells. Acquiescence, the nuking my melee defense, and the Lash of Slaanesh. Go on, Warp Spawn. Gonna have to see after this fight how well the Warp Spawn did. They're so freaking cool looking. I wish they had regen though. They cost 1,000 is the thing. And you can get Plague Bearers for 750. I know they're completely different units, but Plague Bearers are pretty good for 750, I think. I mean, these guys are a lot quicker. They're 40 speed when they aren't poisoned. I do have another soul grinder. Yeah, there he is. I've got 2 soul grinders up, getting shots. Just bombarding the mid there, doing actually some really good work. My soul grinders do really well for me. They are 1900 though, they're quite expensive. Speaking of expensive, the plague drones with the ranged attacks are 1600, which is a lot. And as I said, once their ammunition is gone, I don't know how well they're going to fare. I'd have to use them very carefully on flanks and stuff. The fiends come in and they do some really good work against my soul grinder. Soul grinder's decent in melee. Very decent in melee, but fiends are vicious, really vicious. And that soporific musk is bad. Bad for me. So I took down the Exalted Keeper of Secrets, but that Keeper of Secrets must have done like 20,000 damage or something. I wonder how much my Great Unclean One did with his Pestilent Decay though. So they now have the central point. Yes, they're getting 10 per second. I'm only getting 5. I need to get that central point back. Great Unclean One was the big mistake. The way I used that guy was the big mistake. They're going to get my soul grinder here. Just trying to send in some Nurglings to help and some shots. And more Plague Bearers on the way, but again, they take so long. My Nurglings actually doing really well annoying this cavalry here and actually doing some damage. These guys seem to be idle though. They've got some really fun melee animations, the Nurglings. Some of them are like, they like form up into a ball and just throw themselves at stuff. It's really cool. So I forced those guys off. My warp spawn fighting to the last model here. Got those AoE attacks. Still got my Beast of Nurgle in there. Well, down they go. That was it. Now I have nothing in the mid. My cultist shows up. Just trying to help and gets caught. Constantly harassing my reinforcing units. I got another Beast of Nurgle in. You can re-summon units once they go down. I'm not sure exactly how it works. There must be some kind of cooldown for them to become available in your reinforcements again. I'm not sure exactly. Obviously, you have to pay for them again as well. But there are only 800 Beasts of Nurgle. Love those guys. Oh, those guys got desummoned, as you saw. Actually desummoned those fellas. Maybe it makes them become available quicker than just letting them die. So they're sitting pretty in the mid, completely surrounding it with cavalry. Going to get charged from all angles. Soul Grinder continues to do good work with his big old cannon. At the moment, I'm trying to just gather forces up to go in together rather than just bits at a time. And with Nurgle, that takes a while. Just takes a while to get anywhere. Look, they don't even feel the need to put units on their natural victory location because they know they can respond to it so fast. You are limited. There are unit limits in this mode. For example, you can only take 2 heroes across your entire army. What is this thing? They're doing some stuff to me here. Again, I don't know what. Fascination, apparently. Oh, that's the damage over time rampage thing. Okay. One of their Slaanesh things. So yeah, you can only take 2 heroes. I usually use both of those takes to get cultists, but maybe I should bring those heralds a bit more. The heralds of Nurgle are pretty damn good, and you can put them on a fly. You can also put them on a palanquin, which would be fun. Just a fella on a chair fighting. They got some good. I think they've got like an AoE melee attack bonus and stuff. And if you bring a herald as your lord, he has an AoE heal he can use 3 times as well. They are good units, especially on the flies. I think one day I'll bring a herald as my lord and 2 heralds on Nurgle chairs. Maybe that'll be fun. So my Nurglings get torn up because they can so quickly bring stuff here to do that. I can't get my Plague Bearers there at all. Trying to get shots in with my Soul Grinder. There's some Hellstriders. More Hellstriders. Seekers. These are really scary. These guys actually do have the devastating flanker thing. And there's the loss, by the way. They got a close victory. I mean, I did okay on victory tickets, but once my Great Unclean One died, it kind of fell apart. Had a last hurrah in the mid here, but just couldn't get there in time. They were constantly intercepting my reinforcements like this. Really well played by this player. Eurral, I think their name was. Just completely outmaneuvered me. Not only strategically as well. I mean, you expect to get outmaneuvered strategically, but even tactically they outmaneuvered me, getting the flanks and stuff. Maybe I could have been a little bit better having units back to back kind of thing. It's really hard to do in battle though. Let's have a look at the unit stats and stuff, shall we? Because I can't look at the units anymore. I was going to tell you about the Hellstriders having a... does it tell me stats here? No, they do have a passive that gives them bonuses as they kill stuff. These Hellstriders here. As you can see, their starting army was the Keeper of Secrets, 7 Hellstrider units, and that infantry, which they probably only put in there because they had spare gold. And they ranked them up as well. Only got 4 kills, apparently. The Keeper of Secrets did over 22,000 damage, though. How much did my big fella do? Got 43 kills, did over 15,000 damage. Didn't last quite as long on the field. The Warp Spawn did okay. Didn't pay for themselves in terms of gold value, though. Got 33 kills. I mean, if I sent them in earlier when they had more Plague Bearer support, I probably should have done that. Especially, I could have got them to my Lord quickly with their 40 speed. That would have been great. The other Plague Bearers, none of them paid for themselves in gold value. Those guys almost did. But they did good damage and they held the line. I mean, that's what they're about. They're not killy fellas, are they? They aren't killy fellas. These guys all did decently well. Because as I said, they're very cheap. They're like 600 or 700, these two Hellstrider fellas. Very, very cheap for 60, 100 speed cavalry. Not bad at all. My reinforcements here, Soul Grinders did well. This guy got over 11,000 damage. My cultists kicking ass as usual. This guy actually exceeded his gold value in damage. Never got my Exalted Plague Bearers out, I don't think. Beasts of Nurgle continue to be awesome. And there's all me Nurglings. What about you guys? Yeah, these guys were nuts. These Seekers of Slaanesh, absolutely insane. 110 kills. Just ripped through my Nurglings and my Plague Bearers. The Fiends were awesome to see. Slaanesh have got some cool units, man. I don't think they bothered getting these Marauders out, these other Marauders. The Furies did get on the field, but they didn't do anything. And they got a little bit of damage. Yeah, Furies. I'm not sure what Slaanesh Furies get. I assume they get Devastating Flanker or something. But anyway, there it is. A close defeat. Slaanesh is tough. Just can't deal with all that large. Got no anti-large at all. But yeah, it was a fun defeat. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time.